Welcome to the Saturday morning call. I think it's the 31st of May. So we're just at the end of May. It's Friday evening, still the 30th in the US. And today I would like to talk about the mostly it's about what we do in the beginning of practice and then continue to do throughout the practice. An important point of our practice would be considered or called gladdening of the mind. And that we have a lot of resistance to doing that. And a lot of the resistance to doing that is actually magical thinking. Mikey, can you add to that? Because this came out of a conversation that you and I were having just yesterday.
Yeah. The part of the magical thinking is that we can't do it. It's not possible for us, right? We're not able to do it. We have no freedom here. And then the other side of magical thinking is we can do anything. We can read other people's minds. We can jump over tall buildings, right? And so we're looking for a middle way here, pointing towards truth and happiness and joy and leading to contentment and peace.
Okay, that's a good introduction. Um, I would say that gladdening the mind is, in fact, a key component, a very key component. Uh, when Bhikkhu Buddhadasa has actually had 4 different books published under the name of Anapanasati. The first one was actually something that he wrote way back in the 1950s. And then the other 3 books were basically translations of talks that he gave into English. And that the one that's the most common, the one that's the most advertised and easiest to get, seems to not be the best one. But in all cases, when Bhikkhu Buddhadasa finally gets around to talking about the mind, he always mentions that gladdening the mind should be something that we practice very early from the first, and to continue to practice it. Now, Bhikkhu Buddhadasa teaches the Anapanasati Sutta according to the tradition that was set up by the Buddha in Sutta number 118, where the Buddha did not follow a practice or a chronological order of practice, but rather he introduced it in the sense of um, the 4 elements. And so much of the magic thinking that we will have about Anapanasati is that the sequence of the sutta is actually the sequence of the practice. And that's one of the major problems. Uh, we we follow that as a tradition in the United States educational system. So within Buddhism, though, it doesn't go like that. And in fact, you would think that the Majjhima Nikaya would start at the very beginning, which would be Sutta number 22, where the Buddha says that I only teach one thing, and that is dukkha, dukkha nirodha. Well, if that's the only thing that the Buddha taught, why is it so obscure? That in fact, the first sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya is quite daunting. It doesn't belong in as the first sutta if, in fact, we have that mentality of the first thing that you read is the first thing that we practice. So That's the first kind of magical thinking that I can see is that people get everything out of order. Another way of looking at it is that much of the teaching of the Buddha has to do with cause and effect, and that seeing the causes and seeing the effects is actually quite liberating to be able to see that. But unfortunately, much of the time, people get things backwards. And the reason that they get things backwards is because cause and effects can happen very quickly after one after another, but that the student will see the effect and then see the cause and get them conflated so that he thinks the effect is the cause. And so in our practice of Anapanasati, one of the points of magical thinking is to start getting things straightened out as to what is the cause and what is the effect. Now, in Sutta number 12, in the Lion's Roar, there is a particular passage at the very early part where the Buddha states in his Pali way of how could anyone, by understanding the Four Noble Truths, get any magical thinking out of it. That in fact, his magical thinking, he stated as that very famous phrase of ipiti so. So the point is that ipiti so bhagava araha sama sambuto icha charana sampano logavidu, that whole thing, the Buddha discounts that by saying that he only teaches the Eightfold Noble Path and the Four Noble Truths. How can anybody get those highfalutin Bhagwan and Arahato, knower of the world, and all of that kind of stuff is actually magical thinking. And that over time, there's a lot of magical thinking that has creeped into the teachings of the Buddha. And that what we hopefully will start to do is to see our magical thinking and come out of it. One of the magical thoughts that I see commonly is that the teaching of the Buddha is very complicated. There's 16 of those, and 36 of those, and 5 of those, and 12 of these, and 8 of the yonders, and all kinds of things. And it looks like that it's actually quite complicated. Um, 4 foundations of mindfulness and 4 noble truths, etc., like that. But the numbering system is actually just a mnemonic. It's to help us to remember, but that the actual teachings is very simple. We need to keep coming back to that one phrase that the Buddha says is he teaches only one thing, and that is dukkha, dukkha nirodha, and that in fact, gladdening the mind is that key element. That's all that we need to do is to continue to gladden the mind. Now, one of the points to make is that gladdening the mind is actually changing the mind state, the state of mind that we were in. And almost everyone, in fact, everyone is born in their, early days. The first thing is that we're born naked. And yet all of society wants clothing. In fact, that's the first thing that the nurses do is that they'll wrap the babe in clothing before mom ever sees it. She doesn't see the baby as it comes out. She sees it after it's been washed and dressed. So, as an infant, when we are born naked. We are born raw. We are born, in fact, not able to use our hands. We're not able to talk. We're not able to feed ourselves. In fact, we operate very instinctively, and that humans don't have nearly as much instinctual urges as many other animals. For instance, horses and deer and other four-legged animals can stand up and walk within 30 seconds of birth. Humans take some years to learn to walk. Isn't that interesting? So we stay dependent for a long time And then when we start to school, we're told to go to school. We're told when we cross the road to hold mommy's hand, or when we're out in public. We're not able to manage on our own. And so we have all of these habits built up and all of this attitude of, I'm dependent. I'm dependent upon the teachers. I'm dependent upon lawyers. I'm dependent upon the government. I'm dependent. And so this whole understanding of dependency is actually a state of mind. And this actually then leads to a whole lot of magical thinking about our practice. When we have this magical state of mind of, I need help. And look how many people are looking for help. Some of them go on to Discord, some of them go to psychologists, some of them go to a medical doctor, some of them go to a priest or a preacher, because we're always looking for help because we have that attitude that I can't do it on my own. So we're always out there with the doubt of, who can I get to help me? And so when we go through this process of gladdening the mind, what that actually means is changing that attitude from being dependent, being helpless, being a victim, into being on top of your own world. Now, when I say on top of your own world, that means then that the world outside is not really our responsibility. We need to get our own internal world straightened out. And that would be what we mean then by um, gladdening the mind or brightening the mind, changing our attitude. And if we change our attitude, if we brighten the mind, then that will actually have a great deal of effect on how we feel. Because if we're a victim in our attitude, that means that we're subject to all of these outside forces, and that we're, let us say, not really responsible for ourselves because all of these outside forces are affecting us. What that brings on, though, is fear. That the basic position of the feeling system for people who are in the attitude of a victim is fear. And that you could say that the major teaching of the Buddha would be to come out of fear, to come out of our mentality of being dependent upon the rest of the world, and coming to the position of independent, and that you're the boss. Now, everybody can reflect upon how much time they have spent in their lifetime with the idea of, I need help. I need this and I need that, and I need people to go and do it for me. Almost they teach interdependency, and certainly the religions teach to be dependent upon a higher being, a God or whatever. An example of that would be they say that God is love. Well, if you feel unloved, if you want love, then it's comforting to hear that God is love. But here's a question for you. Each one of you reflect upon this for just a minute. Have you ever felt really good? Felt on top of the world? It may have been dependent upon something of the world. Maybe you made an ace on a test, or maybe you run a touchdown, or maybe you did something and you feel really, really good about yourself at that particular moment. The question is, do you need love right then and there? If you're successful, you don't need love. Tina Turner had the song, What's Love? What's love got to do with it? The answer is that people who need and want love are already in that dependency position. It's almost like we go back to our natal period. We become infants again, and we need mommy to take care of us. And so the actual practice of the teaching of the Buddha then has to do with this primary thing that we've got to change our attitude. We've got to change the attitude into the attitude of, I can do this, I can handle this. And that I've taught many times before that there's 3 levels of doubt. Now, the first level of doubt is the level of doubt of, who can I get to help me? That's the victim's position. Once we get over that, once we figure out that no one is going to help us, then the second level of doubt comes into, am I up to the task? And this is where the practice really begins, is when we begin to change that attitude from the question of, am I up to the task, into the position of, darn tootin', I'm up to the task. I can handle my own mind. I can handle my own world. And so we begin to change that attitude from being the attitude of a victim to the attitude of a winner. Now, that actually begins to change our relationship to the outside world, because we have a lot of magical beliefs about the world. In fact, a lot of these beliefs are actually taught. An example is that you live in the world is broken, and you've got to help fix it. You got to vote. You got to take care of the poor. You got to go do this and do that and all kinds of stuff like that, in the form of a should or an idealism. And this is magical thinking. The only gifts that you can have or give are gifts that you've got. You can't go fix a broken world with broken tools and a broken mentality. Then, in fact, the world isn't broken. That's another point of magical thinking. The world is not broken. Guess what's broken? Your attitude about the world. That's what's broken. And going out and fixing the world on the outside is not going to fix you on the inside. So, you see all kinds of newcomers coming to the teachings of the Buddha, bringing in all kinds of magical beliefs. The magical belief of, I'm a victim. The magical belief of, the world is broken and I've got to fix it. The magical belief of, it's hard to change. Well, when we say hard to change, most people have the idea that we're talking about over a long period of time, and that the teaching of the Buddha is always about right now. So part of our magical thinking is about past and future. And so if we can practice for just right now, gladden the mind, because the mind is very much spring-loaded to go back into the habits. And so we have to continue to practice over and over and over again. One of the magical thinking that I have seen is that, and I see this in psychology a lot, that if people go and have a psychology group, and some event happens, then that event will change me for the rest of my life. Another example would be, if you go do a 10-day meditation retreat and you'll have some great big insights, then that insight alone will be enough to change you. This is magical thinking. That in fact, you can see that is, let us say, has a little bit of possibility in it, in the sense that if you have an event, a big trauma or a big insight, then you will remember that insight often. Well, now we're getting into the realm of correct practice. We have to keep remembering and keep remembering and keep remembering. And this is actually what we see in post-traumatic stress disorder. Back in World War I, they called it shell shock. Then they called it all kinds of terms, winding up with PTSD. Battle fatigue was another one that they had. But PTSD, they have the idea that that lasts a long time, that a shell shock can be unshocked once the war is over, or that battle fatigue, you can rest and then the battle is over and you're okay again. But now in modern times, they have the idea of PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder, and that how that affects people is that they remember the trauma and remember it over and over again. The example that I would use was the guy came back from Afghanistan. He's laying in bed about asleep, and his young son, that he's very happy to see because he just got back from the war, and his dad and his son very happy to see him. So he goes and he jumps on the bed and jumps on daddy. And mommy comes in for the ruckus because their daddy is choking his son, because when he got jumped on from his son, he thought it was the enemy, and he's there defending himself because he's in that state of danger. But he didn't get one post traumatic stress disorder event, but rather he was trained over a long period of time to feel like that he's in a war zone, to feel like he's in danger, so that when his son woke him up, he woke up in that state of terror, and so he's got to defend himself. We build those kind of habits. You could go so far, in fact, to say that everybody has post-traumatic stress disorder because we keep reliving our old stress. We keep repeating being, let us say, victimized by the stress that we have. And the proper way of dealing with this, with the practice of the Buddha, is to remember to come back to the here now, look at what we're doing, and make a change, to constantly brighten mind, to constantly come back to everything is actually okay. And the reality is generally that everything is okay. That, for instance, when the son jumped on his dad, he was jumping on his dad because he was really happy to see him. However, that stress was the first and foremost thing in his mind. So that's how he responded. That's how he reacted. So what we mean by this is that we need to train the mind. We need to keep coming back to everything is okay, everything is fine. We need to start working on that changing of the mind so that we come to the point of recognizing that everything really is okay. Now, there is a very, very famous monk. He died in 2012, Achan Mahabor, in Udon Thani, and he's very famous for a couple of videos that were done. He's the one that it calls the world a toilet full of shit. Well, that toilet full of shit mentality actually can be useful in the sense that, oh, well, I don't have to worry about the world. It's just a toilet full of shit and it's not my shit. I can get away from that. I can stay away from it. But in reality, that's inside the mind. When I say that the world is a toilet full of shit, that's just my own mental state. That in fact I can call it the world is a toilet full of shit humorously by just mentioning to the students, let's stay out of the world. Let's go off into seclusion. Let's go find a better thing to do. Uh, let us say, go private for a while. Stay in seclusion, because out there, it's a dangerous world out there. Um, but in reality, the world is dangerous out there is also just a victim's position. That the world is not dangerous out there. You go and make of the world what you make of your own world on the inside. That's what you translate to the outside. And if you translate to your inside that you're okay, everything is fine, not a problem in the world. If you have the mentality of not a problem in the world, then who needs love? Who needs to be loved? That in fact, if you've got no problem in the world, then you can be friendly to other people, and it's okay for them in their own magical thinking to see my attitude of friendliness and joy as loving. They can see that. I don't mind. They can make that magical thought happen. But the reality is that we neither need to be loved or do we need to love. That an infant, for instance, doesn't need mommy to actually love her. What the tender infant needs is to be taken care of. And that's true in my own life. Is I've lost the ability to walk, and that I spend all of my time at home. I'm very happy and fortunate to have Tam and Mikey do a lot of the stuff that I used to do all by myself, and that I'm very grateful for the care that they give me, but I don't need them to love me. Mikey, do you love me?
Okay, just being friends.
Yeah, just being friends. That's the whole point, is that we don't need to love one another. What we really need is to be okay with ourselves. And if we're okay with ourselves, then we can be friendly to other people. That love is a magical belief system that we really don't need. But our society teaches us that. And so, what we're going to be practicing with the practice of Anapanasati and the Eightfold Noble Path is to change our attitude from I need to be loved because I'm a victim into changing it into the attitude of I'm already okay. I don't need anything. Right now, I'm all right. Santiago, right now, are you okay?
Yep.
All right. Do you need me to love you?
No,
No, you
thank
don't
you.
need. How about, do you need God to love you?
I'm good.
You're good. Yes. How about you, Ivan? How are you? Are you okay?
Okay. I'm okay.
All right. So you didn't. Do you need me to love you?
This is good enough.
All right. Do you need God to love you?
I don't think about that.
So obviously the answer is no. You don't need anything. Okay, this is how we practice. This is the actual practice that we have, is the practice of just being okay, just like we are, including the statement of warts and all. Ivan, you're okay, even though you screw up. You're a screw up. Okay. This week, I will confess, I shit in the bed. Couldn't do it. Couldn't help myself. Guess what? Even though I shit in the bed, I'm still okay. We cleaned it up. In fact, I cleaned up most of it. Cleaned it up enough to where Tam, all she had to do was take the sheet and put it in the laundry. So we mess up sometimes. That's all right. Can we happily clean up our mess? If we have the attitude of everything is all right, if we have that attitude of all is well, no problems, then we can handle any kind of emergency. So this is why I'm talking about gladdening the mind is in fact another way of saying the entire teachings of the Buddha. If you can just gladden your mind over and over and over again, bring yourself out of your victim's position, bring yourself out of the fact of needing help, bring yourself out of I screwed up, and all of that kind of stuff, and come into that position of, I'm okay. Everything is fine. Not a worry in the world. Now, here's an important point is that when I say I'm okay, everything is fine, not a worry in the world, those are statements based upon thought. And Buddha makes a big distinction between the state of the mind and the objects of the mind. And so we can have wholesome thoughts, but the wholesome thoughts need to have also the intention behind it that changes our attitude. That we need to change the attitude from needing into not needing anything. That we're already okay. We're satisfied. That this state of satisfaction, actually, in the Anapanasati Sutta, is considered a feeling of well-being, a feeling of everything is all right. But we can't have the feeling of sukha without changing the attitude of being okay. Now, sukha is actually in a Pali word that's exactly opposite of the word dukkha. And dukkha actually has the quality of being dissatisfied. Things are not good enough. I'm under the influence of other things and other people, which means that they're on top of me. And that what we need to do is to change that around from, instead of being burdened and carrying things around, is that we drop everything and be your own king, be your own emperor. There is a student told me this one time. He says that everyone is an emperor of their own pile of dirt. You probably heard me say this before. Everyone is an emperor of their own pile of dirt. The point, though, is that if you're the emperor of your own pile of dirt, does that mean that you're buried under all of that dirt? Or does it mean that you're clamoring to get up to the top of that? Now, here's an important point, is that many people have a magical belief that they're buried under their pile of dirt, and that they have to struggle, they have to work really hard to come out of it. That here we are climbing and clawing our way out of our own dirt to get to the top of it. And really, that pile of dirt is only our attitude, affected by our attitude. And so you can actually, in one thought, have the feeling of being under, being covered up, being under the influence of, and change that attitude immediately and come right up to the top. So that, in fact, you're sitting on top of your world of dirt. This is the way that we want to develop that attitude. The attitude that I'm in charge here, the attitude that I am alive, and that I'm, let us say, king of my own hill. And what is all of that hill? What is all of that dirt? It's all of our past, and it's all of our future. But when we have the thought of I'm king of the hill, that's always that thought right here, right now. So this is the way that we practice over and over and over again, is by using thoughts to change our attitude. And if we change our attitude, it will change the way that we feel, so that we can relax, take it easy. Now, all of these things kind of work together. The Anapanasati Sutta is based upon the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and that the only one that I haven't covered here is the body. And the recommendation for the body is to take a good deep breath and relax the body. Find out where there's any tensions in the body and just relax. Because if you're relaxed, isn't that part of your attitude? You can have an attitude of being relaxed, or you can have an attitude of being, let us say, tensed up, kind of ready for a fight, to where our relaxed attitude is basically ready for anything, which means kind of nothing at all, because Nothing at all is really what's happening if you have that attitude. And so gladdening the mind means brightening the mind itself. It means changing our attitude, changing our state of mind into being a happy, wholesome state of mind where there's really no worries. Now, if you have the attitude, if you have the state of mind that there are no worries, Anna, what kind of worries are you going to have then? If you have the attitude that there are no worries, what kind of worries are you going to have? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's the whole point is that we can, in fact, talk ourselves out of feeling bad and talk ourselves into feeling good. We've spent our whole lives talking ourselves into feeling bad by having one problem after another, one dangerous moment after another. And so we get into this state of needing other people to help us because the problems that we have ourselves created are overwhelming. We can think of one thought after another of a problem, one problem after another. But guess what? We made those things up. Now we're going to start practicing not making stuff up, not making up problems, but just to let the mind be okay the way that it is. It's almost like the mind is being constantly bombarded, constantly stabbed, constantly harmed by unwholesome thoughts. And if we just stop having the unwholesome thoughts, guess what? The mind will heal. It'll heal all by itself. We can change our attitude simply by stop having unwholesome thoughts and start having wholesome thoughts. The wholesome thoughts themselves are not healing the mind. The mind will heal all by itself. We just need to stop harming it. Like I said before, Scott, we don't need love. When you feel good, you don't need love. The only time that we need love is when we're in a bad state of mind. And we want love in the sense that we want somebody to come take care of us. But if we're already okay, if our state of mind is great, then we don't need to be loved. I'm okay. It's only when we feel down and out. Then when we're feeling down and out and we have the attitude of being down and out, then we'll say, well, maybe if I got a girlfriend, well, I can't get a girlfriend because I don't have a car. So now I got to go get a car. And so now we've got a car and we got that car. Guess what? No girl. And so this whole point is that we don't really need anything other than to change our attitude over and over and over again because we have been practicing. We've become experts at having a victim's attitude. The whole world out there has a victim's attitude. An example, in fact, a very good example would be Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is a victim, and he is desperately trying to come out of his victimhood in all the wrong ways. If he just sit down and say, oh, everything is all right, then we wouldn't need a war. So it's because he's oppressed, because he's got a victim's attitude, then in fact that's the only reason that any wars have ever happened in humanity is because of people feeling victimized by their enemy. So when you come out of your victim's position, guess what? You're not at war with anybody anymore. You're not at war with the world. It doesn't need to be fixed. It's just a toilet of shit, that's all. But that doesn't mean you got to go fix it. You just leave it like it is. It's okay. You're okay. So, Mr. Ben, what do you think?
All good stuff, Dhammarato. Yeah.
I can't hear you. You're very soft.
Yeah. All makes sense. Yeah, the attitude is the forerunner. If you had have a good, wholesome, positive attitude, then everything else just falls into place.
In fact, everything falls.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter whether it's got a place to fall to or not. It just falls off. That's the whole point is that we can just drop it. There's nothing to it.
Mm.
So, Alex, what about you? Are you okay?
Yeah, everything is okay. Everything is
Everything is
just
okay. Do
fine.
you need to be loved?
No,
No, you don't need to be loved. You're
no,
already
not at all.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we can see how much magical thinking actually interferes with correct practice. That we get these magical attitudes, we get these magical belief systems, and that what prevents us from remembering to practice being okay. You're already okay. That's the only practice that the Buddha gave, was to come out of our dissatisfactions about ourselves and about the world and come into a state of satisfaction. Everything is all right, not a worry in the world. Every problem that you ever had, you made it up. You made up every problem that you've ever had. Oh, I'm not doing well in school. And so they carry that idea into the class. Oh, I don't understand what the teacher is saying. And while we're having those stupid thoughts of, oh, I don't understand and this is hard, guess what? We're not listening to the teacher. We're creating our own reality. We're creating that class. But if you walked into that class with the idea of, well, I can do this, all I have to do is listen to the teacher. And if I don't understand what he says, I can ask him a question and he'll straighten it right out. And we've got this wired. How many students have that attitude? Basically, only the A students. All the B's, C's, D's, and F's, they have the attitude, this is hard. Oh, I don't know if I can do it or not. Oh, I'll have to work really hard, and I still won't get it. And so, in this regard, let me make one point. How many of you have ever heard of intelligence? The word intelligence. We have the word intelligence in the sense of IQ, emotional or intellectual quotient. How many of you, Scott, have you ever taken an IQ test?
No, I don't think I ever did take a official IQ test.
How about you, Ivan? Have you ever taken an IQ test?
I think a long time ago, just for fun.
All right. How about you, Santiago? Have you ever taken an IQ test? Interesting. I thought that I'd have a bunch of high IQs around here, and you guys have never been tested. So let me make this statement so that you really understand. IQ tests do not test IQs. IQ tests your ability to take an IQ test and nothing more. IQ tests do not test IQs. IQ tests test your ability to take an IQ test, which means then that if you study IQ tests, you study the kind of questions that are on an IQ test, then when you go in to take the IQ test, you can make a better grade. And if you really understand the IQ test exactly for what they are, you can cheat and make a really high IQ. Everybody has a really high IQ if they know how to take a test. But it doesn't really take a test of one's IQ. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because it has a whole lot to do then with your attitude. That in fact, an IQ test doesn't actually test IQ, it tests your attitude about an IQ test. It tests your attitude about an IQ test. It doesn't test your IQ. That's why IQ tests are so, let us say, misused. IQ tests are, in fact, part of our magical thinking. You see on the internet, on YouTube on a regular basis, that this horse has an IQ of 200 just because the horse knew a trick or two. And that horse has never been tested for an IQ. The same thing with like Einstein. They say that Einstein had an IQ of 160. Guess what? He died in 1957 before IQ tests were actually fully formed well enough to be able to test an IQ of 160. They made that up. So if you want to have an IQ, make it up. Give yourself 140, 160. You're a smart person. You're smart enough to make up an IQ. You don't have to take a test because the test doesn't test IQs. It tests your attitude. Ivan, what's your IQ?
I can't remember. Very normal, nothing special. That's all
Yeah,
I know.
nothing. Okay, that's a good IQ. Nothing special, ordinary. You're all right. How about you, Santiago? What's your IQ?
Whatever gets me a benefit from the government. I'm a retard. Means I get paid.
Retard bucks.
Yes, okay. That's actually very Dhamma. Whatever works. Mikey, what's your IQ?
Don't know, don't care.
All right, got that one. How about you, Alex? What's your IQ?
63.
63. That's too high. That's 2 points higher than mine. So this is the way that we look at things like that. Is the IQ test doesn't mean anything. There's no reason to measure yourself against them. In fact, this leads to another important teaching of the Buddha, and that is we don't need to compare ourselves with other people. We can just come to the point of I'm okay and he's okay, and that's all there is to it. We don't have to compare. We don't have to say, oh, I'm a victim bigger than he victim, or he's a victim and I'm not a victim. Oh no, we're all victims when we think about it. And when we're not a victim, that's because we're thinking that we're not a victim. It all depends upon what you're thinking, and your thoughts also depend upon your attitude, your state of mind. So, anapanasati basically is nothing more than the Buddha's injunction of look at what you're doing and make a change to it. You can change your IQ. You can change your position. You can change your attitude. But we have to keep doing it over and over and over again till it finally sticks. It doesn't stick the first time. You have to practice this. We've actually become experts at being victims. Now it's time that we have to practice over and over and over again, every moment. In fact, if you can remember every moment, to practice being a winner. Practice being on top of your own world. You're the emperor of your own world. Don't see yourself as being buried under it. Don't see yourself as climbing out of it. See yourself as already right up there on top. You got this made. This is the attitude to develop, not the attitude of I'm on my way. That's the victim's attitude. That's already magical thinking. I'm on my way. The right way to look at it is I've arrived. This is already good enough as it is. Now, last point. Some people have the idea that the Dhamma is a lot of work. Other people have the attitude that the Dhamma is just easy peasy. The reality is that it's a process, and the process is the development of the skill of everything is easy peasy. That if you just begin to say, oh, well, I don't have to do anything, then those unwholesome thoughts will keep coming back. We have to take the right noble effort to keep changing and keep changing and keep changing. Guess what? The changing is actually easy to do. We just need to keep doing it. And so the actual practice of the Dhamma is easy, and that we don't have to worry about the future. Let's do it right now. Because if I can do it now and I've got the skill to do it now, the next now that comes by, I can do it in the now, right now, too. We don't have to worry about the future. What we need to worry about is how to stop worrying right now. To come out of our worries right now. There's nothing to it. Everything is already okay. RJ, what do you think?
I think that is totally true. I can correlate. Um, and this kind of helps me all the time when I come back to it.
Yes, so keep coming back. Keep coming back.
Yeah, and I can see my mind play different games, and then I have to keep identifying that. Sometimes it can change it from just feeling good to, it morphs into, oh, I need to do this, and then I realize, like, not necessarily. Everything is okay, and
Mm-hmm.
then I see that when I do this, the things that I was fretting about, they just get done automatically, much better than I would expect otherwise with hard work. So in a way, it works counter. When I wanted to do them too much, it's hard to do and they don't get done so well. When I don't want to do them anymore so much, they get done easily. Uh, so it's just automatically happening once I'm relaxed.
Right. Once you develop the right attitude, everything happens automatically. A better way to say it is that once you have the right attitude, there's nothing to happen.
Yeah.
There's nothing happening. Everything is already okay.
Yeah.
So, Alex, do you have any final remarks? Ben, before you go. He's gone. Alex.
No, just to say thank you to everybody for coming, and thank you, Dhammarato and Mikey, for talking about gladdening the mind.
That's all there is to it. Just gladden the mind. Dhammadasa, do you have any comment?
No, sir.
Everything is all right. Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say? Some of you got names, I don't know how to say them.
Thank
All
you for
right.
the talk. I was making all kinds of problems, and before I joined the call, and then I realized what a relief it is that I could just stop creating those problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just made it up in my mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Recognize that we keep doing that. This is why we
Yeah.
have to keep practicing over and over and over again, is because we are experts at making up problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like our hobby is to make up problems. So now we're making up the problem of there is no problem. By the way, that's interesting. The problem is there is no problem is really a big problem for a whole lot of people. They consider themselves problem solvers. And what happens when you've got no problem to solve? Oh, I've got to go create a new problem. I've got work to do. I've got to go create a problem because there's no problem. Can we recognize that and stop making up problems? We have that feeling of, oh, what's wrong? Oh, I got to go do something. And then we'll make up a problem, make up something to do. And while we're doing that, whatever it is, we're not paying attention to how we feel anymore. And so we think that what we did solved our feeling, where all it did was just change our attitude a little bit. So let's not find problems to have and fix them. Let's go with, hey, I've solved all the problems. There's no more problems to solve. Isn't that marvelous? Everything has already been done. It's good enough like it is. So, Mikey, why don't you take this thing home?
Gladly. Yeah, thank you, friends, for being here today. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, leave a comment and a like. And we're also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. One thing to mention here is here's some thoughts you can have to throw the dukkha out, such as, don't need to worry about that anymore. Let's forget about that. That's no big deal. That's not necessary. And instead we can have thoughts like, yeah, things really are okay. Things are all right. Can just take it easy. What a relief it is.
What a relief it is.
So practice making this sort of change. It's worthwhile. And there's nothing magical to it. All right, thank you, friends.
Thank you so much. Good to see you again, my friends.
Thank you, Dhammarato.